Hello and welcome to the Imelda MarCAST. Our guest today is the most powerful power trio to come out of Chicago. They have a new record out, 1-800-Mondays, out on 31G. Today we are talking to Paper Mice. Welcome and thank you for taking time to talk to me.
Hey, what's up? Hi, Dave. Both of yous.
Hi.
Hi.
That was a 2-for-1 special. I was eating a bowl of ice cream, and I was like, I don't think that's polite to have eating ice cream in a Zoom interview. And then I'm also like, nobody would really care, would they? I was like, all right, I'll be good about it.
It depends what flavor.
Mint chip.
I'm not so big on mint, actually, but eating ice cream on a Zoom thing, I mean, I give you points for that.
I mean, what would be a problem is if you heard it. That would be not cool, and that's exactly what you would want to avoid.
That'd make it fun, though. It adds some zhuzh to the whole thing.
Yeah. Hey, Taylor. What's up, buddy?
Hey.
Hi, Taylor.
Hey.
So I reached out to you guys before the new record had come out, which, by the way, is my favorite of your discography. It's really awesome. So thank you for putting it out. So I reached out to you guys before it came out, but then I was told that not the entire band wouldn't be able to do a chat because one of you had a gnarly injury. So I'm curious, what happened?
that was me. I was playing. My kid has gotten really into baseball. Both going to like Sox games and playing baseball. And he's playing on 3 teams, and he's obsessed to the point where like on his lunch breaks we take him to like the nearby park and throw balls for him and play catch, and he's constantly nagging us to bring him to the park to hit and play. And it was a Saturday morning a couple weeks ago, and we went over and he was hitting, and we have a giant bucket of balls. And mixed in with the baseballs, there's a few golf balls. So yeah, we were getting ready to go home, and I was feeding him the last couple of balls, and I was like, okay, this is the last one. And the last one happened to be a golf ball. He loves hitting the golf balls because they sail. They just, you can absolutely like crush them, and it's a huge confidence booster. So last ball, throw on the golf ball, and he whacked it full speed, and it goes into my left eye. Yeah, so
I know the story, and it's still horrifying to me.
I like kind of lost control of my body and fell over, and yeah, just unreal like sensation and lots of pain, and had to go to the ER, and then had to go to the ER again the next day. So for a week or two, I had like almost no vision in my left eye. My vision is still pretty severely compromised in my left eye, and yeah, there's some other fallout, but my vision's improving. I'm feeling much better generally. Everything is kind of healing slowly. But yeah, I took a golf ball off of a baseball bat straight into my left eye. I had a traumatic high FEMA. I had some retinal damage. It was a mess.
Good Lord. I'm glad you're better. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it was a little scary. You think you have 2 eyes, so it's like, oh, if you lose one, what's the big deal? But like having one, like your depth perception is really compromised, like your ability to see really small things and kind of work at small scales, and it's really compromised. And I didn't think about how much of that stuff I do.
It would have been badass though to play a show with like an eye patch though. I mean, fortunately we won't have to see that, but
what I realized is that no one makes a good eye patch. There's like 2 Etsy shops for eye patches, and they're terrible. It's just like pirate flag, weed leaf, and that's it.
Cool.
Those are your options.
They just have to make like a pirate weed one, and that'll be like the most dank eye patch.
The weed leaf, that's so weird to me. It's like someone's like, I need an eye patch, like, but I really want to, I really want to show everyone that I'm into pot. So like, let's do
drug culture, yeah.
Maybe the pot helps them cope with the eye trauma. Who knows?
Touche.
I mean, I hear it's good for glaucoma, right?
Precisely.
So they go hand in hand. So luckily, it's knock on wood. It seems like COVID lockdown might be ending. So like during that time, what did you guys do to keep busy with creative projects?
At the beginning, I was mixing this record, and I mean, I was like, I was in my basement studio where I'm sitting now, and worked on it, hours a day for a month or so. So that this record got me through a pretty bleak stretch of the pandemic.
I don't know if we tried to. Well, we were just trying to finish the record, really. I'm trying to. When did we seal this thing up? I can't even remember.
Like, when did we finish mixing?
Yeah, and we were like, okay, we're done. It was during the pandemic, right? Because
I feel like,
but
I feel like it was probably the fall by that point, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think we handed it over to Matt in like September or October.
Yeah, the problem with the reason it took so long in terms of that, I mean, Taylor, mixed his butt off, but the problem was we were about to get in the studio with the string quartet when everyone went into lockdown. And so we spent a good deal of time being like, well, what are we going to do? Like, and then we eventually figured out a way to record people in their homes and send it all to Taylor and have him mix it. But that really lengthened the process because that was, we had built a lot of this around that, and we were waiting for it. And it was really, we were really invested in it,
Yeah, those string parts on the album were all recorded remotely, individually, and Taylor put it together pretty masterfully. So that stuff took a long time, and it's only 2 songs, but that was enough,
Yeah, that was literally like the last piece of the puzzle in terms of recording, and it just the way that the timeline happened is, we just couldn't get in the studio before everything got locked in.
So when you're recording all the strings separately, how do you ensure like a uniformity in sound? Like, do you send everyone like the same mic setup and like preamp, or do you just have them use whatever they have and then you figure that out in mixing?
I think I think a couple of them did. So it was the string. We should say on the string players on this record are the Spectral Quartet, who Dave is known for maybe 10 years or more because he wrote for them. So we have kind of like a working relationship with them, and I think it kind of became clear that the simplest way that we could do this was going to help it move along, and we just needed to. It just needed to happen, and we needed to get it done kind of at whatever way it could get done. So I think a couple of them shared a mic. They all live in really close vicinity to one another. I think a couple of them shared a mic and a recording setup. I think I saw that in the email chain. But yeah, it was really just like whatever they had. And luckily, they all did have something that they could at least share with each other. Yeah, I think a couple of them hadn't really recorded themselves before, but totally workable. The audio is great. I mean, they're such great players. That's the thing is like, the mic and the preamp, all that stuff is like so secondary to the caliber of player that they are. That really showed through.
Was there a moment where you guys worried like, oh crap, if we can't record these strings, are we gonna have to just use like a cheesy synth preset?
I think, for me, I'm pretty averse to that stuff. I would have probably opted to not have the strings rather than use like a synthesized string sound, or I would have just preferred to wait. Like I feel like we've waited this long to get the album out. Like let's do it right. Let's get those strings on there.
So let's cycle back to the very beginning. So the original remaining members are Dave and John, if I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys meet initially?
Like how do we meet each other?
Yes.
So our original bass player Adam and I were in a band together in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a band called The Teeth, he moved to Chicago a little bit before I did, and when I ended up moving to Chicago, we were like, oh, let's start a band together again, and we played with a couple of different drummers trying to find the right person. And then, I was talking to some people and let slip that I was looking for a drummer, and I happened to mention to somebody who mentioned it to John's then roommate, okay, who taught at the same school that I taught at, and I passed him in the hall one day, and he goes, hey, I know someone who might be interested in playing music with you. And I was like, wait, what? Like I didn't even know that he knew that I was starting you get the whole picture. And so then he put us in touch with John, and we met up with John and took it very slowly. We decided to not pressure him and just be like, let's just play around a little bit, see what it's like. And we got along with him instantly. But and we started playing and started trying to write music together, and it was Adam and I were just like, this guy is sick. Like, I never, yeah, I couldn't believe how amazing he was. And I was like, I really don't want to scare this guy away. I don't want. So we started playing, playing more and more until finally we're like, okay, I think we're a band now. And, so we just became better and better friends and kind of solidified that relationship. And then, a few years in after our second album, Adam moved to California. And so we spent a little time without, like not being a band. And then, we decided like to try to find a new bass player and start it up again. And we had known Taylor for a little while, and Taylor would be the best person for this job. And, we'd always gotten along well with him. When we met up with him and, started trying to play together, and he learned all the songs like in a moment. He was great to write with. And, so I don't remember how I met Taylor, John, I don't know if you remember how you met Taylor.
I don't remember. Through Andrew, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was probably through. We have a mutual friend, Andrew Martinek, who I played in a band with Andrew, and Andrew went on tour with Dave and John. So yeah, I'm sure Andrew was the crux of it.
But I was a huge fan of Taylor's band with Andrew, and also Taylor plays in the Arts of Life band, and I was a huge fan of that band. Also a huge fan of Taylor, so it worked out really well.
Nice. So Dave, when you and Adam were before you met John, was there already like an aesthetic in mind for the band, or was it loose?
I think the band that we had in Ann Arbor was, I think, a lot of the germs of the sound of this band, and even like the kind of concept of our lyrics. Like we had in that old band, we had done about half of our songs were about news stories. I don't know if you know, all of our songs in this band are about news stories, like weird current events and things like that. And so we had really liked that idea, and we're like, let's kind of try to take this a step further, kind of continue a similar vein. So the general idea of the of the sound was there, but once we got together with John, it took a like the seed is still there, but John definitely took it in I think a groovier kind of direction. Not grooving like the 60s, like peace sign, like, but like like really.
Dude,
like,
my first process with you guys, I rolled up with like an eye patch with a weed leaf on it. It was
badass.
It was a groovy time. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the drummer from the Teeth, who's really interesting, was like a violin student. So I never knew him, but his name was Andrew, and like his drumming was really appropriate for this. And Dave, I think it'd be really cool if we could share with you the Teeth record, because it's so good.
Thanks, John.
But it's like it's stripped down, and there was something raw. And Dave did not play guitar; he sang. So the guitar player was more like into Fugazi, so it was a little bit more groovy. And the drummer was less aggressive, I guess, than I am. So then when I came in, I think I was a little bit more like Animal. I was a little bit more. I was a little bit like more aggressive, I guess, So then, yeah, and then we got a little bit more funky, or you got more funky, because I wasn't with you before, but you get the idea. It was a quartet too, and we were a trio, so I don't know, it was just different.
Was the 3-piece format always the original intent?
No, actually, the original idea was like, because I was the singer in the Teeth. I didn't play guitar, and I didn't want to play guitar in this band either. I wanted to sing, and I wanted to play the saxophone maybe, because I'm also a saxophonist, and so. We tried playing with a couple of guitarists. Actually, I think it was only one guitarist.
Who's that?
I'm not going to name names on the podcast. I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it later. He's a great guy, and he was a really good guitarist. But it just like it wasn't. I kept being like, no, do this, and I was like, this guy's going to stab me in the eye,
and then you're going to be wearing the weird leaf eye patch.
Just borrow mine. It's fine.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good fit, and I was just like, I also didn't realize I could play and sing at the same time. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to try playing guitar and we'll see what we do. We'll see how it goes. Cause I really wanted it to sound like I had a good, a guitar sound in mind. I had it like, and it wasn't happening with the other guitarist. And so I nixed the idea of playing the saxophone and picked up the guitar and just, saw how it worked and, realized pretty quickly I could sing and play. And I was like, okay, this is three pieces great. Like, let's keep it small and, not worry about it.
Wow, yeah. Based on your playing, I never would have thought that you were kind of forced to play guitar. That's very cool. You stepped up to the challenge. You saw like a gap that needed filling. You're like, yeah, let me give this a go.
Thanks.
So, like in the early days of Paper Mice, what bands did you guys bond over?
Devo,
Talking Heads. Um, what else, John?
Uh,
I feel like this question kind of excludes Taylor, and I feel
Deer,
like we
Deer
do have a
Hoof.
lot of
That's okay.
stuff in common with Taylor as well. But yeah, definitely Deerhoof.
It's hard. Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I related to the sound that you guys were going for with the kind of the guitar, whatever, our sound and all that. But I had never listened to a lot of that stuff. Like I literally never really got into the Devo records. I only knew some songs, and then I just like was like, my God, where have I been? I mean, this was in 2007, so it was a while ago now. But yeah, we never ever. Well, I'll just say this, and I mean not like utmost respect.
Don't go there, man. Don't.
I'm
No,
gonna
no,
go there because you don't need to.
no one
Yeah.
eso, señor.
All right, then. So we're not going to go there. But pop quiz for all three of you. What are your favorite records by Talking Heads and Deerhoof?
Ooh, who wants to go first?
My favorite Deer record is Runners 4, and yeah, this is something that I think we talk about this a lot. Runners 4 is top for me. That just like wall of great songs at the beginning. Throughout the whole record is just a wall of great songs, but there's like 4 or 5 songs in there that it's just like every single one of them is just stomach churningly good,
I'd have to agree with you. Although even some of their later ones, like not like super recent, but the Green and Black one, like Versus Evil, and like there are these heavy jams on those. But yeah, Runners 4 to me probably.
I think Runners 4 didn't click with me immediately, and after I think it was Taylor who was like, "That's the one," and I've been really enjoying that one a lot more. Milkman has been my longtime favorite, but I think Runners 4 is they're neck and neck right now.
Milkman's really good too.
What about Talking Heads?
I really like the name of this band is Talking Heads. I'm going with the live record.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
I really like. I know the other ones probably are a little bit more quality and have depth, but I really like Building and Food.
Yeah,
I really like that album.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 77 is my favorite.
both of those records are incredible.
But I also really like Fear of Music.
Does that one have E Zimbra on it?
Yeah,
That
First
song's
track,
so
right?
it's the
good.
first track. Yeah.
That
Dave,
song's
I asked the Paper Mice guys, but have you seen American Utopia yet? Okay, so you guys, I cannot recommend this enough. It's the tour that David Byrne did right before the pandemic. It's on par with Stop Making Sense, I'm telling you. His band is so good. They play all of these Talking Heads jams, and David Byrne is in his 60s or however old he is, maybe 70s. You still got it. And it's directed by Spike Lee. It's on HBO. It's amazing.
That sounds awesome.
I actually teared up watching it because it felt like the energy of the show that he captured was just like, oh, so good. And all of these songs I hadn't heard, like newer ones, I was like, these are good. I'm like, if you're liking the new songs when David Byrne is in his later years, it's a good sign. Highly recommended.
Would you guys say that there's an overarching goal for what a Paper Mice song or record should sound like? Like, is there an end game that you're trying to achieve, like with the entire discography?
Not the discography, but maybe the song. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, no. That's all I would say. I definitely don't think there was ever a point where we're like, well, we did this on the first 2 records. It was more like, how are we gonna make this song good? We didn't look super macro like you just mentioned.
Yeah, I think John hit it on the head. I think we think of things more in terms of the small scale, like in terms of the song. Yeah, we've been doing weekly band zooms, and I think we're kind of at the we're done with this record with 1-800 Mondays, and we're trying to think of what's next, and we're at the point where I think we're trying to think a little bit bigger. We're trying to think about like, what's the next album going to be? Do we want to kind of have an arc to it? Do we want to have some kind of what kind of coherence do we want that thing to have? And I don't think we've as a band really thought about that a lot before. It's always been focused on the song.
At the very least, do you think like new material will still revolve around the news item concept?
I mean, I think so. We were talking about this recently. I feel like for at least for me, the news story concept makes, how would I put it? like number one, I think it's just an endless source of material. Like I don't have to, figure out like, like start. I don't feel like we're starting from scratch and conceptualizing things. Like we just like, oh, there's a great story. We start from scratch at that point, not starting from scratch at like what world are we in? Who's like. So I think that for me, I really like. I also like, in each song we get to inhabit a different person and like tell a completely different story from a completely different point of view. And so like, for me, like, I mean, I don't know how people who are listening feel about this. I hope people aren't getting tired of it. For me, it's like, I feel like every song is like a brand new experience, and I also don't feel any kind of desire to write about myself or my feelings or anything like that, directly, that is. So for me, I'm not feeling a reason to stop, and I really enjoy it. I can't speak for the guys here.
I agree with you. I think another thing I was going to bring up, another thing that we talked about in one of our recent Zooms, is that one of the things that I like about, there's a song on this record, Fresh Coat, that has this kind of moment where everything kind of, we build up this section of the song and then it kind of just goes and it does this left-hand turn, and stylistically and lyrically it kind of goes into this more pensive space that's a little less humorous, and I think we want to explore humor is such an integral and important part of this band, and it's such a thing that it's lacking in so many corners of music to involve humor at all. I don't think we want to abandon that, but I think we also want to kind of explore other tones to lyrics while still kind of staying in that news story zone.
Yeah, that is something I really enjoy about your music, that like sonically and lyrically, there's a sense of fun and humor to it. It's we can't say that about like most bands. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I really thought to reflect on that. Do you guys have a favorite news story represented on the new album?
I think that for me, it's the title track of the record. It's just really hilarious. I mean, do you know this? So this will tie into what I was going to say about your last thing, is that I think the challenge that we have, and I think we're doing a much better job of it with this record, but I think we could do even better, is especially because in 2008, our first record, 2008, Dave, or 9, whatever it was, social media and a way to communicate was not as easy. So anyway, my point is, how do we let the audience in on what these songs are actually about? Because not everybody knows the story of the gay bomb, WMG. Not everybody knows. Even sometimes when we talk about the astronaut lady who drove across the country in her diaper, like, some people know that and they're like, oh yeah, and then some people are like, wait, what's that? And then when you have to explain it, it's like insane, But what's that?
Yeah, you sound like a crazy person telling a lot of these stories.
Exactly. So yeah, there are some songs that are just like so hard to explain because they're so unbelievable, but they're true. But yeah, the Garfield phone, because when you just say the words Garfield phone, that's funny. Because you're like, why was there such thing as a Garfield phone? Like, well, we know why. It was pretty cool, but people don't use phones anymore. Just the idea of it, let alone, a mysterious cargo that got lost at sea, and they were trickling out little by little, like for about 1800 Mondays. So we made it the name of the song, like it's a number, I mean,
like somewhere between 30 and 35 years, these phones have been washing ashore in France.
Yeah. And so Dave takes out his phone, is like, how many Mondays is that? he's like 35 times 52. It's around 1820. I mean, there was 1-800-Mondays. Dave, did you ever think 1-900 Mondays? Did you ever?
Well, there is a line in the song where we say 1-900, right?
Yeah.
So that's your favorite story on the album?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yours. I know what yours is.
Mine's gotta be the Pooperintendent.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Dave, do you know the story?
No.
This is exactly what we need to do. We need to go on every podcast and just break down the song. Be like, okay.
So here we go. No, there was a high school. I think it was a high school in New Jersey, where every day or two they'd show up to the school and there'd be just like human feces on the track and on the field, like. And they were just like, who is pooping on our field? So they set up a camera, like a little sting operation, and they caught the guy who was doing it. And he was the superintendent of a neighboring school district. And like, and they were just like, people were just like, why did he do this? There was all these theories about what was going, why he was doing it. And he ended up like, I don't remember who he would have sued for that, but he sued a bunch of people because he said they lost him his job and they plastered his face all over the news, and he lost the suit, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard that part of it. Yeah, they were calling him the pooperintendent, and it was just, I find the story hilarious. See, the 1-800-Mondays, I think it's just, I do like the story in that, I didn't think we could make a song about that. Like Taylor brought up the idea of that story, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to make a song out of this idea. I don't know how I could find the humor in this, because it's just like, it's just horrible. It's pollution. It's like the ocean is dying, and there's just these phones are just like a symptom, But I guess coming back around to what Taylor was talking about, making like more serious, songs that aren't just funny and that go into more serious topics. To me, that song, it's funny, but like that is a tragic song to me. Like that song is really sad to me. I mean, it ends as pessimistic as any of our songs have, really. Like, we'll be here forever picking up plastic. Like that's sad. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, your kids will be picking up the plastic. I'll be dead. So, has there ever been a story that you guys were attracted to, but just couldn't find a way to turn into a song? Like it was too grisly or just abstract and bizarre?
Yes.
Dave won't touch the like the murder or death. If it's anything morbid, he'll be like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah, I don't want to. I can't make jokes about people dying. I can't take pleasure in things like that. Like, I don't care how silly the story is. It's just like, I feel like that's off limits, And there were some, stories that I think had a lot of. They were kind of ripe for parody, things that I think would have been great if it wasn't for the fact that they were just horrifying and awful. We couldn't do it. Yeah, I don't remember what those are. If you're curious, I don't remember any of them.
All right, fair enough.
Sorry.
So Taylor, clearly Paper Mice has like such a unique style. So when you joined Paper Mice, did you have to like adapt your bass playing to make it work in the context of the band?
I think it was more I had to adjust my brain to fit into the context of the band. It was just I mean that period of like learning a set's worth of songs was it was a lot of work. Like each one of those songs took me like half a day to learn, if not that, and then like another couple hours to really like kind of set in. There's so many twists and turns, and they're pretty counterintuitive. I think in terms of like there were technical things that I remember. There still are technical things that like the way that Adam played, certain parts. It's like I can't get my fingers to do it fluidly or whatever. And then that makes sense. It was that was Adam, and that was how he wrote and how he played. But yeah, I mean the big challenge was just getting all the material down.
I should mention that Taylor went to Berkeley for banjo.
Is that real?
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
And Dave has his master's in saxophone. So, I mean, it's just crazy. And I teach little kids. So it's sort of like, I don't know, that's unrelated, I think. But back to the banjo thing, that's fascinating. You've never, yeah. I don't know if you have like banjo technique on the bass, but I've always found that fascinating.
I think it was more, I mean, I played bass before I played banjo, so I think, but they do adapt to each other in a kind of interesting way. Yeah, I think about that a lot, especially clawhammer. The right hand of clawhammer is kind of, it's almost in it. You have like two kind of picking devices on your hand, and yeah, it's kind of there's an interesting analog there that I think probably drove me towards banjo.
So to complete the trifecta, John, you have to now tell us that drums are not your primary instrument.
Yeah, they are definitely. I teach band to little kids, so like to middle schoolers. And so I have to be pretty, basically available, or, you know what I mean, to play those instruments. And so I went over to a friend's house, went over to Ed Bornstein's house, because I've got some songs laying around. I was like, let's do one of my songs. And he recorded it. And I was like, I'm just going to lay down this flute track real quick. And Ed was like, what? And I played kind of out of tune, but I played okay, you know. And he was like, he sent me a text later that day, like, "What's up with that flute? What?" You know. I was like, yeah, it's like part of my job. I have to actually know how to play it, but I'm not like great, but I can play. It's fun, you know. So yes, no, I'm a drummer, 100%.
All right.
100%.
Is there a possibility of banjo on New Paper Mice?
Before I'd say, go ahead, Taylor.
I mean, I don't want to rule anything out, especially after all the wacky stuff we did on this record, but I can't really, and I can't envision it if there's, but yeah, there's no, you know, yeah, I think we're all excited about kind of breaking all of the rules that we've set for ourselves, and I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, I will say that in the beginning, we set the rules were pretty much like, if we can't play it live, we shouldn't put it on record. You know, we didn't necessarily all. We agreed on that, but I knew that eventually maybe that would soften. And then when we happened to get Taylor in the band, who's like an actual studio whiz, and he's like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do all these things. We were like, oh. And then we just scratched the surface on the record. So I would not be surprised if there was banjo on something. I mean, if it calls for it, I don't know if it would, but I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine it would be tasteful banjo, not just shoehorned in like, hey, isn't this wacky, guys?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean just because you have banjo doesn't mean it has to be like, oh, crampone. You know, it's like, that was my introduction to banjo. It's Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry's cousin comes into town. He's like, crampone. You know what episode I'm talking about?
I've heard you tell it. I've heard you tell it a bunch of times. I know the.
It's like one of the few things in my childhood that's like very strong. So I just had to mention it. But
I was just gonna say, as a banjo player, like everyone has a really strong association to the banjo, and it's almost always incredibly negative. Like no one's like, oh yeah, there was a banjo player who lived down the street from me, and he used to play tunes in the summer evenings. It's like always like, oh yeah, this delivering.
I have a positive association with the banjo.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, all right.
My father was a banjo player. I mean, he was an amateur banjo player, and I have a very loving relationship with the banjo. I play a little bit as well, not like Taylor does, but I play a little bit. But I grew up listening to bluegrass music. My dad played. And I love the banjo. So there, Taylor.
Yeah.
Positive banjo association.
Fair enough.
Is it banjoist or banjoer, or what's the term?
It's banjovi.
Ah,
Well, I think it's banjo player.
banjo player.
What about banjist?
I like that, banjist.
Or banshee?
Ooh.
So, side question, Taylor, is Steve Martin a decent banjo player, or is it just?
No, he's really good.
Okay.
Legitimately really good.
Yeah, like I've seen him play on, I don't know, some late night show, and he like, I don't know shit about banjo, but like he looks like he's good, but like I couldn't really evaluate that properly.
Yeah, no, he's unquestionably really good. Yep.
Good for him. John, one thing I especially enjoy about watching Paper Mice play is your drumming. It's got speed, power, and fluidity, and most drummers would kill just to have two of those. So how do you do it? Who are your influences? What's the secret?
That's a very kind compliment. Appreciate that. This is probably one of the lamest answers, is that, and I'm being completely honest, is that I don't have a set or a go-to list of drummers that I always go back to, and I'm just like, oh, it's more like every drummer I've ever seen, you know, like, I mean, I grew up a huge Dave Grohl fan, and he's just like rock and heavy. Do you remember how he used to play with the tom? The top tom was so high, and he looked like actual animal, and he would just, he hits harder than most drummers. I love that about that. But if you think about it, he's not really like a finesse player. I'm totally enthralled by every jazz drummer. Not every, of course, but most jazz drummers I see, like Frank Rosalie, like local guys, because in the city we just have so many amazing musicians. So like I once saw Frank Rosalie solo concert, and he did an entire solo. He was a drum. There was a drum show, just one person. So you're like rock drummers don't do that. Like he was getting tones, and he was scratching, and he was just like using his fingertips. So like I love the finesse of that. So there's that. To be totally honest, I grew up playing like that sort of fast punk rock music, so I was conditioned to learn how to play fast. I still play, that style in another band. So yeah, it's really lame. I'm not like the guy who's like, oh yeah, Tony Williams off the '67 recordings is like so good. Like I don't love Stuart Copeland so much that I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm usually just like, man, that song he plays on, he's so good. I mean, I really love Bill Bruford on Yes, It's Fragile. I really love fucking John Densmore from The Doors. I mean, that's weird, right? I don't know. I just think he's so tasteful. Who doesn't love Greg from Deerhoof? I mean, I will say this, and I don't want to go off shoot, but sometimes I'm like, I just want you to play the records. Everybody loves them. He improvises so much that I'm like, he takes it to the nth degree. I don't want to make this about Deerhoof. They're one of the best bands ever.
Great.
I like him equally on the record as I do on live,
So what I heard is the main influences are Tom and Jerry and Animal. Got it.
Dude, I'm 100% yes. Yeah. Tom and Jerry and Animal, for sure. My mom said that when I was, as young as 2 or 3, when the Muppets, it's time to play the music, I knew every word, and then I knew every word at like a very, very young age, and then I would, dance to it, and so I'm sure Animal is in my subconscious.
It's awesome.
Yeah. How awesome is that song, though?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's time to play the music. It's time to, I need to listen to that and then go back. That's so good. I bet if Dave had a piano right now, Dave would go, oh, it's like this. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you guys could come on stage to that song.
Is that it? I mean, it sounds ish,
That's close. Wow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, do you think we're a band that should come out to a song? Is that something we should do?
What?
Yeah, for the lulls, sure.
Walking music. That's amazing.
Like those, bands that they turn on music before they get to the stage,
Oh.
Like we're at that level, guys. Like we're gonna do that now.
we are not at that level.
You could raise your drink to the crowd and do like the Zen, humble.
Oh God.
If we had walk-up music, would it be the Muppets theme?
It would be weird to have your walk-up music be the theme song to an actual show that has nothing to do with you,
True.
I love that song, though. They do say, why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know. It's like a kind of torture to have to watch the show, which might be a little bit, overly self-deprecating if we did it.
I was never paying that close attention to the lyrics. Wow.
I mean, it's what's their name? Statler and Waldorf, and they don't say that they change their words in different seasons, I think, of the show. Not that I've watched a lot of Muppets, which I have. Sorry.
I'm sure people have done like a thesis on the Muppets and what it means for like, I don't know, some existentialism, whatever, what have you.
Side note: there was some really good music on the Muppet Show. What's it called? Who was in that episode? It's probably like the Don Knotts episode. They did this version of the song "The Windmills of Your Mind." I forget who wrote that song, but it's like a ballad. But they did it like really, really fast and getting faster and faster and faster. And they have this like alien Muppet with like a pinwheel legs, and he doesn't breathe the entire song. They edited it so he just keeps singing and singing and singing and getting faster and faster and faster, and it's like incredible. And also the episode with Paul Williams on it. Do you remember Paul Williams? No, nobody. He was one of the people who wrote Rainbow
The
Connection.
Rainbow Connection. Yeah.
And he does. I mean, he wrote some kind of, I think, kind of hokey songs that for some reason I love. Oh, and for some reason, all of the songs that they picked on that episode are songs about songs. So one of them is the old-fashioned love song. The other one is a sad song that used to be our song. And he sings with the Muppets, and it's incredible. It's so good. Sorry, I'll stop going off about my favorite Muppet.
No, this is great. Speaking of songs that get faster and faster, there is a song on the new Paper Mice album that does exactly that.
Probably Regular Guy.
I think that one's my favorite one because it does that. It just gets really bizarro, herky-jerky.
Yeah. The intensity ramps up.
I'm glad you like that one. Thank you.
That one is, I think that one's a good kind of case in point for what we were talking about earlier, where we're kind of directed by like what's, a goal for the song or like a directive for the song. That one, I think there was a clear kind of like technical framework that we had that Dave had in mind. And
yeah, that song was the idea for that song was an idea I had probably almost a decade ago, probably maybe 8 years ago or something, which is like I wanted to do a song where every word that I sang was played with the bass and with the drums in exact unison, like where the band plays together in unison. And it wasn't until we stumbled across that guitar riff that we're like, oh, we could do that over the guitar riff, and we'll just have the guitar do the same thing the entire song, and the band will beat exactly together the entire song. And like that was the basic idea. But then we had the idea of kind of starting with a lower intensity and just getting, I mean, like the tempo stays the same throughout the song, but we go from like, each beat to like, eighth notes to 16th notes, and it gets faster, the feeling of faster and faster and faster and higher and more intense as the song goes on, and that was a pretty linear curve in that song. So that was, I mean, I think probably the most like conceptual of any of the songs we've done. Like it's a very clear, like, concept to what's going on musically in that song. And it's something we haven't really done to that extent before, I think.
So Dave, you've composed for Spectral Quartet, right?
Yeah. I wrote about a 15, 16 minute 5 movement piece for them where they sing and play at the same time using the poetry of Russell Edson, my favorite.
So does that compositional approach also make its way in Paper Mice, or do you guys stick to just like the so-called typical like rock band writing thing where someone brings in a part or two and then you hash out the details?
Well, I mean,
therein lies the $1 million question.
The process for us writing has always been a very collaborative process where it's not so much someone brings in an idea as like we usually just start playing. Like we'll pick up our instruments and one of us is like finished tuning and just starts playing something, and then the rest of us join in and we just kind of like play for 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of a practice, and we get something good and we record it, and then we start working with it. But when I think about the way that I write my own music, it's very solitary. It's just me at home with my instruments and myself, and it's very different just in that respect, in that I don't get to have anybody who to tell me like that's a bad idea or here's a better idea or like here's other things. So it's a very different process in that respect. However, that being said, there's a bunch of moments on this new album where I had to kind of go home and kind of figure stuff out. So like A Regular Guy is one of them where I had to do a lot of like writing at home, or like there's sections in songs where like I'm writing lyrics, and because I'm writing the lyrics, the structure of the song gets affected by what the rhythm of the voice is doing or what the lyrical content is doing, and so I have to kind of make a couple of projections and be like, hey guys, does this work? Is this is this okay? So there are crossovers, but I think also like when I'm writing for a string quartet, like when I'm playing guitar, I'm playing the guitar and that's about it. When I'm writing for a string quartet, like there's all of these aspects of sound production that I have to think about, like what part of the string are they playing on, what part of the bow are they using, what the technique, there's all these different things. And for me, like it's largely guitar. I don't really micromanage the technical aspects quite so much in my own playing.
That makes sense. So you get to live in both worlds basically and enjoy the affordances of each and like the different joys they give you.
Yeah, definitely. It's slightly off topic, but for me, like I a little while ago, like maybe about 10 years ago, like I didn't enjoy writing by myself. Like it took a while for me to like figure out that aspect. I really preferred to be writing with my bandmates, you know. Um, and I would go home and have to write my own stuff, and I really didn't enjoy it. And then a few years ago, I think I changed the way that I wrote and I wrote my own music and started making music that I liked better. And then all of a sudden, I really enjoyed being alone. I enjoyed writing music by myself, not more than writing with my bandmates. It just became a different thing that I actually finally appreciated and liked. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So at least 2/3 of you have kids. So I was wondering, how does being a parent change your relationship with making music?
Well, yeah, I think it changes everything. You know, it stops being about you and your shit, and it starts being about like you gotta take care of someone. You gotta prioritize that. There's a very real demand on your attention and your time, and you know, music isn't exempt from that. Certainly, I wouldn't trade it. You know, for anything.
You have to learn to take a golf ball to the face.
Yeah.
Oh, too soon.
And I'm canceled. Sorry.
Well, I'm not going to cancel you, man. Yeah, I mean, there's less. You know, you have to try to squeeze in practice time, like after the kid goes to sleep, and when you know you barely have any energy. It's like it becomes a kind of like question of your own resolve. You know, like how much do I really want this? And some days you don't have it to give. Some days it's just like as much as you know that you want it deep down, it's just like you're too wiped out or whatever. You know.
Yeah, I agree with everything Taylor said, and it's you know, there's a lot of, I know for me it was just like a lot of like one day I had to bring him to the studio when we were working on the album. He just, you know, he sat there and was like hanging out and, you know, playing with his iPad or reading and like, you know, and listening to the stuff and like I'm like being there, but it was like there was no other way around it, and I had to have him with us. And it's like, you know, I mean, he's amazing. Like, you know, having a kid, I love my kid. He's amazing. I wouldn't trade, like Taylor said, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But like, yeah, there are, it makes actually like just the very act of getting together into something that you have to like really plan and really like be, you know, it almost makes it feel like if we have like a practice where we don't accomplish something, that like something has actually been lost because that was time that we actually made and created, you know. It's
the other. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, buddy.
I was gonna say the other thing that I don't want to like frame this entirely negatively, and the other thing that I think the other interaction that I want to kind of highlight about between parenting and music is just that, you know, parenting kind of rejuvenates like joy in your life. It gives you like a new kind of, you get to re-experience things, you know, kind of for the first time through your child. And music is not exempt from that either. Like you get to, you know, share your favorite records with your kid, and you know, sometimes, you know, like Dawson loves Devo, you know, but he also like he hates banjo. Sometimes you win some, you lose some, you know. He doesn't really hate the banjo, but you know. But yeah, you know, music making is like you get to share that, and you get kind of a renewed spark through getting to experience it through someone else. That's pretty great. Highly recommended.
Like, do you think you guys would kind of gently push your kids into studying music, or would you just prefer that if they want to, then yeah, here you go, here's a lesson?
I mean,
for me, it's an open question because my parents kind of, when I was like 7 years old, my parents were like, okay, you got to choose a sport and you got to choose an instrument. And I was, you know, resentful of it at the time. And for all of the years that I had to do, but that I had to swim and play the piano. But, you know, those things shaped me, and I'm grateful for them. And I don't think I would be playing in a band or deriving the joy that I derive from playing in a band if I hadn't done, you know, played piano for a decade. Or, you know, I don't think I would have the work ethic that I have if I hadn't, you know, swam for a decade. So yeah, for as a parent, I kind of see the value in a little more heavy-handed approach, but it's also just completely antithetical to who I am, you know, and who I am as a parent. I really want Dawson to find his own way and find his own interests, and I just want to support him in whatever those things are. And you know, you can, I think, you know, you want to steer your kids towards things, like you want to like play your kid the Devo record, but you don't want to like play it again and again when they don't like it. You know what I mean? Like you want to kind of expose them and then hope that they see things the way that you do and hope that you rub off on them. And but you don't ever want to force it because that's just going to backfire. Anything to add, Dave?
I think you really said it there, buddy. I feel like it's really easy to talk someone out of doing something by trying to talk them into doing it. Kids can really push you away if you try to force them. And I don't really want him to be a professional musician. I think it's unless it's a life that he really wants for himself, it's not something I really desire for him. My kid wants to be a veterinarian. So like right now I'm letting him find music, when he finds it and develop his interest when he develops it. And, hopefully it plays some role in his life, but animals is what he cares about now.
Yeah, and I think that was the deeper question embedded here. I wonder if like formal training kind of reduces like that inherent and like childlike passion for music or anything really. It's something I wonder about a lot.
Yeah, I think we have this narrative that that like, these institutions of instruction certainly have a stake in. We have this narrative that if you kind of start with this naivety and then you get to this phase in your maturity on your instrument or with your relationship with music where you're just shedding and you're just like, you are, all of your being is in the music, and it's rigorous and you're learning, you're memorizing and transcribing and you're all the different types of woodshedding, and then eventually you have a breakthrough where you find your identity, where like you speak through. And I think that whole narrative is just tired and problematic. I have an axe to grind against it. I think that there's so much creativity to just be milked from the naivety that isn't, doesn't have any instruction to it. It doesn't have any technical understanding or knowledge. There's great music that people make with just that. And yeah, I'm constantly kind of impressed by and amazed by people that think outside of the what's technically right because they don't have that instruction or whatever.
I think there's a lot to what you're saying there, Taylor, because I think that whole idea of like you have to learn to play in before you can play out is really a tool to kind of like repress people's ideas and kind of yoke them into this like one way of playing.
Yeah.
I think additionally, as adults, in this society tend to value children's contributions when they approximate those of adults. We tend to judge children like, oh, look how smart this child can do this thing that an older child can do, or they can do this thing that an adult would do, and not really value their contributions for what they are, right? And I think when we can actually value, for instance, children's contributions for what they are, we can value adults' contributions for what they are, and I think our appreciation of the world around us is elevated by that. We don't stay so like locked into one way of thinking about things.
Preach, Dave, preach.
Tell me about the artwork for the new album, which is excellent, by the way. It's like got a lot of details in it. I'm looking at it now. It's got a nice, like simplish, like palette.
We've been talking about parenting a lot, so I think maybe John should grab the point.
We love Bill Connor's work. The guy on the front is, I will say, we only gave him the story of the record and the album title, and then we also gave him a picture of Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. So that's who that face is. Yeah. I have to apologize. My cats are like freaking out. It's always nighttime, and there's these weird like cat noises. That's what that is. So
that's all good.
Yeah. Anyway, we found this great photo of Jim Davis. I almost don't believe it's real, but it's just like him pouting or looking. You know what I'm talking about? That face. And we saw that, and we're like, you can use this. You don't have to use this, but this is Jim Davis. He created Garfield. So, and then he sent us a couple of these sketches, and I think we were like, wait, what? Like, it was crazy. And I think we had one idea. We were like, maybe a little less, and then he showed us less, and then we were like, nope, this is amazing. And then he went back to like one of his first drafts, and we were like, this is so insane, and we wanted it color. We almost thought it, yeah. So there isn't so much a we weren't like, we really want like the computer and a guy like the back. I love the back cover. I love the back. We made a T-shirt out of it. We didn't give him any of that direction. It was all Bill's brain. So we did want to incorporate orange because of Garfield, but
yeah, that totally makes sense.
yeah, but not like orange and black. Not like so in your face that you're like, okay, I get it. It's just like we didn't want it looking like Halloween.
So is the Jim Davis image the only direct reference to the lyrical content on this album?
Yeah.
Or is it like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think Bill really knows the news stories, right, guys? I don't think he.
I don't know.
I don't think he took that and then, which would have been actually an interesting conversation. We actually just didn't get there. It was more like, here's the record. He listened to it and he responded. And we respected his artistic choices and enjoyed them. So yeah, I'm almost surprised there isn't a tie into the lyrics, because that's something that we would do, but there's really not.
Yeah, and that's something I enjoy about the artwork for Funny Papers, that it's all like, it's such a coherent package, like visually, lyrically. Really cool. And speaking of that record, I read that it was recorded in a school gymnasium. How did that happen?
As I mentioned, I'm a teacher, and before we knew Taylor and we, electrical audio in our minds, we were like, it'd be cool to have like the big drum sound, and we had a recording engineer friend named Grayson Elliott Taylor, and we just brainstormed, and I don't know who came up with the idea, but he was really challenged by it, and because I'm like, I work in a school, like there's a big room, like what would that room sound like? And he was into the idea. And I don't even know if we went there and did a test and we're like, oh, this could be cool. It's more like, no, we're just going to do it. So we went there over a weekend, right? And like did a bunch of stuff.
And it was winter and it was cold and we had to turn off the heating whenever we did a take. And just like do the take. And then, if we did a whole bunch of takes and it got cold, we had to like just stick it out and then we could put it back on when we were done with the takes. And then we got pierogies across the street.
At Kasha's or?
Yeah.
What's funny is that first record was done in that space that I think used to be called Odom, right?
It was Semaphore, right?
Semaphore, right?
It was Semaphore, but it was also, it was a bunch of different things. I mean, like they had like shows there. I saw like a Victory Records band there, like in early 2000s. I mean, like that space used to be like a place like where they had shows. But anyway, Semaphore. Yeah, so that was right on Chicago. And the school that I worked at was like no joke, like half a mile from there, like a very short walk. So on both records, we would go to that place, Kasha's Deli, and just get like pierogies. It's just funny. Yeah. Same neighborhood, album 1 and 2.
Keeping it local.
Yeah, but Gymnasium, that was just sort of an interesting proposal, and Grayson wanted to do it. He made it sound great. But yeah, we recorded on this. He had his like setup in like the back room, which would be like the locker room, but it was barely a room. It was a very small room, and then we played on the stage. We got some cool pictures from it. I don't know. It's like, John Yingling got some cool pictures from that. So
he also Grayson close mic'd all the amplifiers, but then he had microphones taped to the floor in the very, very back of the gymnasium. And he had like microphones set up in different places in the gymnasium, but he also close mic'd everything. So he basically just used the gym to generate like natural reverb, but he also had close mics of everything. So it was ingenious what he came up with it there. I never would have thought of it.
So now that you guys have recorded at Electrical Audio, do you think that's going to be the spot for you guys next time?
Yes.
It's pretty much what I hear from everyone who records there. It's like, why would I go anywhere else now that I know what it's like here?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Electrical is amazing and magical, but like Taylor is like Taylor is the manager there. Taylor records there. Taylor works there. Like, so for me, I'll go wherever Taylor is because he's got the ears.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that I have a boss who's wildly generous about just about everything in the world. Thank you, Steve Albini. You're appreciated. And the deal with like recording time is that anyone that works there can use the studios for their personal projects when it's unoccupied. So I think we want to take more advantage of that, and it's something that we've been talking about kind of for the next phase, is like doing more kind of piecemeal recording rather than doing the traditional thing where you do a 2-day block and record guitar, bass, and drums or whatever. We would want to do more kind of experiments, like kind of catching things at the genesis and recording things along the way in the studio proper. Something that I'm excited about, at least.
So Taylor, does this mean that you have your own electrical audio jumpsuit?
I have 2, but they were missed.
Yes.
Everyone, when you get hired, you get 2 jumpsuits. And I ordered the 42, and I should have ordered the 42 long because mine didn't go down past my ankles, and they come up to like the midline between my elbows and wrists. And so I don't really wear my jumpsuit, but it's not because I don't want to be a team player.
Yeah. That's such a cool idea for like a work uniform. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think it speaks to Steve's his kind of view of what the engineer does, is just that it's like you're an audio worker, hashtag audio worker. You're a contractor, and you're doing a service for the people. It's glorified, and kind of misunderstood and whatnot. But yeah, at heart, you're performing a service. You're getting down and dirty with the patch cables and the microphone.
So you're saying it's not just all cocaine and like crazy parties?
Exactly.
Well, that's something to consider then. If I ever wanted to work electrical audio, no cocaine.
It's just
You gotta cut it out.
lots of coffee, right?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of coffee.
I saw a video where Mr. Albini does the civet coffee, right? With like where those weird meerkat things eat the beans and then poop it out, and it's helps the flavor profile.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Have you not heard of this, Dave?
I thought, well, I feel like I heard, maybe I did, and I thought it was a joke or something.
Yeah.
That's real?
It's real, yeah. And Steve is a very adventurous eater, and that's an understatement. Like anything that's like weird and out of the bounds of normal taste, he's super excited by. And yeah, he had a phase where he was very into that. What are the beans called?
I don't remember specifically, but like those civet cat things eat the beans.
The coffee. I just remember the coffee's called Kopi Luwak. Yeah, and it's like coffee beans that get or the berries, the coffee berries with the beans in them get digested by that weasel like creature and then pooped out, and then the roasters roast the coffee that's harvested from their poop.
I'm all grown up now.
I've tried it. It tastes awful.
You tried it?
Oh yeah.
So you've drank something that's been through the digestive system of a meerkat? I feel strangely closer to you, Taylor. I don't know why.
Didn't taste good. Wouldn't recommend it.
Also good to know.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't want to keep you guys too long because you've already been very generous with your time. What are your thoughts on touring post-COVID, and like how do you feel about like DIY shows? The fact that you get a bunch of strangers to go into a sweaty basement with like very poor ventilation. Like, is that something that can happen again? Is that something that people would want to do?
That's a great question. It all depends, I guess, on just the climate of I don't know. I mean, it's not soon, but it's so funny. Like in 2 years from now, like, what do you, depending, like you could say he was vaccinated. Most of us were vaccinated, but how are we all going to know? And it's a great question. I mean, personally, I'll play with a mask. I'll probably, if I had to, I would probably hate it, but I'd rather know. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, we were scheduled to play a show like on you guys remember we were scheduled to play that Pet Cats benefit at like the tail end of February, early March, right as kind of news was breaking that like COVID was like in the US and in Chicago. And we canceled that show.
I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, me too. Largely because I think we would just feel so unbelievably awful if, and it would be such a funny inversion of the Paper Mice MO if that, if there was a case of COVID that happened, or a super spreader event or whatever that happened because that show had congregated, and we had played some part in gathering those people there, and then there was a news story about it about us. That would be,
oh man,
very meta.
yeah, exactly. I think that's still something that's in the forefront of my mind, is like, do we bear some responsibility for putting people in that position? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. It's such a tough situation, because like those are the spaces where the people that we know and love have like watched their creativity thrive, where we've had the most satisfying connections with people through our music, and I don't want to see that disappear. That would be the saddest thing in the world to me. But yeah, I feel like we have to think about our responsibility.
I think we all need to. Well, we're all going to be very creative in working around this.
Yeah.
Dave, when we played with you at the PRF show in the summer at that space. I don't know, man. That's a big space. Lots. It's a tall ceiling.
Yeah.
I imagine doing that show and people wearing masks, and I'd be like, yeah, I'd play there. And then if you asked if we'd play Situations, which is our favorite, which is like our favorite basement place, I'd be like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
That's like ventilation nightmare.
I don't think we're going to be on the front lines of like pushing the boundary with with shows and DIY stuff. I think when things, I think we're gonna have to see how things go, and when the world opens up a little more and we see some evidence that things are safe, I think we'll get back involved. It just terrifies me. I've been now that I'm finally vaccinated, I'm finally feeling comfortable practicing. But like it's like even that is I'm still gonna probably wear my mask. I'm still nervous about that. I think it's gonna be a long time before that's something I feel, at least for me, I feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
And to be totally honest, as we mentioned at the beginning of this interview, Taylor needs to get healthy. We're not making any quick motions to do anything, In fact, we can't. But hopefully this year would be cool if we played a show. That's a goal, right?
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, 2 final quick questions. When shows do happen again, do you think you guys will do at least one show where you play some songs with Spectral Quartet?
Hells yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Awesome.
I think I don't want to speak. I haven't spoken to Spectral about doing this yet. I want, like, we've played shows with them before. I think we opened for them once. They opened for us a different time. Like, we played with them a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I would like to share a bill with them again. And I personally like the songs that have auxiliary instruments on the album. So like the 2 songs of string quartet, the 1 song that has tuba and contrabassoon. Like, I want our first like show back. I want to actually like do these songs the way they sound, like get those instruments with us. That's my pipe dream there. I think would be really cool. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be amazing.
Might be tough to get Mike and Ben to come out for the last part of one song. We might need to write some extra tuba parts.
That's a good point.
I mean, that's a lot. We're like, guys, we're gonna give you some serious beers that night. But Dave, the song that we're talking about, what is it? It's Your Funeral.
Yeah.
Dave's lyrics. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically like something that's harsh and untuneful, like an arrangement of contrabassoon and tuba, like just like really harsh. And so he had written those lyrics as part of like something that would just be, sort of like harsh. And then we're like, dude, we really need to get those instruments in the song. And Dave's was like, yes. So that's why they're in that song. It's kind of because of the lyrics.
It's several levels of wordplay going on there that we decided to like bring into real life in a sense. Because there's that song is about do you know what that I don't want to, I guess might as well we're on a podcast tell you what the song's about. The song is called It's Your Funeral, and it's about this woman whose husband had her kidnapped and tried to have her was going to have her murdered, but the people, the hitmen who kidnapped her, decided not to do it, and they gave her proof of what her husband had done. They gave her receipts, they gave her recordings of phone calls with him, and they sent her away, and she went back to her home country and crashed her own funeral. Like she showed up at the memorial service her husband had scheduled, had planned, and she like confronted him there with the cops and had him arrested and had all the proof and everything like that. Well, this woman is my hero. She's amazing. So the song is sung from her perspective. Actually, that might be my favorite story on the album. Come to think of it, like because it's just amazing. Like, but anyway, there's a line in the song where she talks about his plan as being poorly orchestrated, right? And so I say it's poorly orchestrated, harsh and untuneful, tuba and contrabassoonful, like full of tubas and contrabassoons, because that would be something poorly orchestrated if you were orchestrating something. So I was like, we need to actually get tubas and contrabassoons and poorly orchestrate them into this music. So the end of the song, we got Mike Hogg and Ben Royal Ward to come overdub 2 tuba parts and 2 contrabassoon parts, which I did my best to orchestrate poorly yet appropriately for the song, which was, I have to say, a tough needle to thread to like actually, do something that is technically a bad orchestration but make it work in the song. So I had these big, low, clustery chords happening there, and it was. Sure. What's that?
I'm sure there's like some composer out there that was like, yes, that is poorly orchestrated, but it's clearly done. I mean, you're like weaving these things that only make sense in your brain. I'm just gonna say it.
No, I feel like it's all to the service of the pun of the joke of something being poorly orchestrated. Like I was like, oh, that's great, let's do more, and it's like going way too far to make a pun land, But like I feel like the sound of 2 contrabassoons and 2 tubas is apocalyptic. Like I never would have imagined like doing something like that, and like hearing that last chord on that song is just like the end of the world. It's like I really loved the way it ended up sounding. But John, you were saying it would be weird, like really ridiculous to get them out there for like one part of one song. We would need to get 2 tuba players and 2 contrabassoon players to actually do it right.
Oh man.
I don't know where you're going to get 2 contrabassoons, period, let alone 2 contrabassoonists. So
it can be done.
You broke the rules and you made it sound good.
Yeah, thank you.
So last question. What's the last song that was stuck in your head?
Like now you're talking about?
Yes.
I was learning a fiddle tune this morning called All Young that's been stuck in my head.
Called what?
All Young. And I think that's such an interesting title, too.
You said All Young?
All Young.
What's it about?
Oh, it's a fiddle tune, so it's just,
Oh, just, okay.
16 bars of music.
I was going back to this like playlist I was listening to just before. Dave, you can go before I figure it out.
Yeah, I've had this this salsa song by this group's what's his name, Manolito Simone y su Trabuco. I teach a music theory class, and one of my students sent me this song. I've been talking about music that my students have been suggesting, and so he suggested this song to me. And I do listen to a lot of salsa music, but I didn't know this group. It's a song called Pídele, which is it's just incredible. It's it's just a guy asking for someone to like help him win this woman back or something like that. But the song itself is just the music's incredible, and it's like super catchy, and his singing is just got this like really beautiful voice, but it's just kind of like a little bit gruff and gritty, and it's like, yeah, it's amazing.
I was listening to do you know Robert Palmer from the 80s? Do you know that song Looking for Clues? It's like he's like relationships. Oh yeah. It's just like,
is that the guy who sings
yes. Yes.
Addicted to Love, right?
Yeah, he's got a song called Looking for Clues that's like an actual jam, and it's more upbeat, and it doesn't sound like the videos where he's got the girls dancing like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Dave, John, and Taylor of Paper Mice, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for talking to me. And where can people find your music?
They could find it on Bandcamp to buy our record, and actually, good news. We just sold out. So if they want to get our vinyl record, they can contact our label, which is 31G, pick up a copy of vinyl. And if they want digital, or if they want our old record or old anything in the past or a t-shirt, they just, Bandcamp. And then we're on the Spotify and just about everything else.
And Apple Music.
And Apple Music, yeah.
Nice, thank you. And I just gotta say, the song WMG is so catchy.
Thank you.
That easily gets stuck in my head. So thank you for that song.
Thank you.
Thank you. The song about a gay bomb. Crazy.
Yeah, now I know what it's about. What an extra layer of depth. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Can't wait to play with you, Dave.
Yes, we should do that again when things are normal.
It will happen. Yes.
All right.
Thank you,
Have a
Dave,
good night.
so much.
Thank you.